Rule 2,
Mm-hmm.
share your profits with all your associates and treat them as partners. In turn, you will treat you as a partner, and together you will all perform beyond your wildest expectations. Remain a corporation and retain control if you like, but behave as a servant leader in a partnership. Encourage your associates to hold a stake in the company, offer discounted stock, and grant them stock for their retirement. Is the single best thing we ever did.
I love that. And I can absolutely, so I have to admit, this is probably one of the few points that I had problems with. This concept, I absolutely 100% truly believe in as you are building your company from the beginning stages to the middle stages and even going into going public. I think this becomes much more complicated when you become a corporation. Now, the servant leadership, that's a whole other discussion. I love the concept. I think the concept's great. The practice is hard. This is a powerful, powerful tool as you are building. And unless you are listening to this and you're running a corporation, in that case, you probably shouldn't be listening to us for advice. I think that's when it gets a little bit more nebulous, profit sharing and all that stuff. Wonderful. Of course, it's great. And I'm sure the employees appreciate it. But I think this is a powerful building tool for you as you gain employees.
I think that so many of the values he had have been lost because he
Mhm.
didn't get to share much of those pieces. Well, I should say his early stores of Walmart, he had the managers really invested. They actually brought in their personal money to help start the stores because he was bootstrapped the entire way, which is really crazy how much over leveraged he was and how much risk he took to get there. And it was really going to IPO was a necessity for funding and to keeping it at scale. But so much of the profit sharing and all those pieces happened when they were a public company. And it was those employees who stuck with him. And then over time, those stocks would double and double and then increased in value. And they would get their retirements or they could buy their home or put their kids through college. And all of those things really bred a commitment to the company that we don't see anymore. Maybe you do, like you're talking about in these early stages, startup companies, but there's a little bit different motivation there because the motivation of the startup is to get it to an exit so you can
Mhm.
cash out. The way they did it, and I don't know, I'm a little bit wistful for yearning for those pieces. It was about some form of like a retirement in those sense or an investment for the long term because you were loyal to the company and in turn were loyal to you. And so I'd be curious. I don't know how well it scales anymore in
Right.
terms of those large companies, and that's kind of sad. Investing in your people, that was something that throughout the book you just saw, and there was times where he failed. There's a really interesting story where he had one of the leaders who he let run the company for some period. He thought, heck, I'm in my 50s, we're doing so well, I'm going to step away and retire, and he just couldn't do from it. And so that led to a crazy story within the book that people should definitely check out, where they lost a bunch of their senior leadership and management and all those pieces due to dividing the lines. The whole time he was focused not only on his customers, which is a huge theme throughout, but also the frontline people and the stories that were told in there. And it's a really neat way that they write the book too, because it's not just his words; it's different paragraphs and examples from people within his life, from different leaders of the company's family members as well as associates. So it really painted a good understanding of the way they used to be. And I used to work for Walmart back in the early 2000s, and it didn't have that ethos. And
Yeah.
again, that's something that I miss the idea of.
So funny story. I also worked for Walmart, and knowing that we're both from a cook, we probably both worked there probably around similar times, which is hilarious. And that's the only reason I brought up my objection is
Mhm.
I didn't see that in the Walmart I worked for, and it's nothing against the people who ran it or worked there. It's not that. As corporations grow larger and more complex, some of that stuff falls to the wayside. Probably has to fall to the wayside, honestly, for financial reasons. I truly believe it can be a powerful building block to get you moving through those stages of your company's growth. Um, Something that maybe I'll push for a future episode. It reminded me of, I don't want to digress from Sam Walton, but a book I just finished on the origin story of Honest Tea,
Mhm.
the brand. Something you said there really something I really took from that book was the concept that you should build a business for life. You shouldn't, exactly as you said, startups, you shouldn't build a business for an exit. You shouldn't build a business because you intend to sell it to Google in 18 months for $100 million or whatever the situation may be. And of course, if it happens, it happens. But if you build a business for life, very much what Sam Walton did, he didn't start Walmart to sell it to Target or whatever. He built it for life and his family. And by doing so, by building something for life, even if eventually you do get out of it, what happens is the mind shift changes in your head. You're willing to go the extra mile and do the extra work and put in those hours sometimes to keep it going, to sacrifice your paychecks so that you can pay your employees and all of these things that Sam Walton also did. I love the concept, and that's probably one of my biggest takeaways from this entire book was he built this for a family business. And not only did he build it to give his family wealth, which he was very successful at, his family worked in it every
Mhm.
single day. They didn't have a dinner together where they weren't talking business. And um, I thought about it when I was reading through this part, and I was like, man, that makes a lot of sense because one of my big hesitations in starting my own venture is the time it'll take away from my family. And I was like, bam, easy solution. You guys got jobs now, right?
Well, that's the thing. It was his life was consumed by Walmart, but his family was too.
Mhm.
And so he had the kids working when they were 5 years old, and they were very open with the finances, and he gave them stock in the company very early, which I was listening on one podcast talking about that. And he was like, well, that's a unique way of getting past inheritance taxes when they're already owners, when the company's worth nothing.
Yep.
So they worked out pretty well for them. It's dinner time conversation as the stores. It's every piece of it is that. And so rather than separating it and making a dual life, in many ways, if you're going to be so committed to this thing, bring in the family, bring in all the people that you care about, and then you can all have that common mission.